America's Voice Now, returning to you. So, we started before the break to talk about the issue surrounding this Obamacare debacle. Ted Cruz has been up there now for, some 17 hours fighting it. I don't care what the pundits say. I don't care what the Ministry of Propaganda tells you. I don't care what the talking heads on fake news, faux news, Fox News tell you. I don't care what the talking heads on Communist News Network and MSLSD talk to you about. I don't care about what they say at ABC, CBS, NBC, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. They're all lying to you because propaganda has been again legalized for use against American citizens here in the United States of America. If you're not aware of it and you don't know it, they overruled an act called the Smith-Mundt Act that was created in late 40s, I think it was 1947, and it barred propaganda, government-based propaganda, from being used domestically against the American people. They've lifted that prohibition, and now you are being fed direct government lies. The proof of that was on a story that was out on WorldNet Daily. They did a whole expose and a whole spread out on America's Voice Now and a radio program I did on it. You can find it there. You can find it by going to our website. You can go to americasvoicenow.org. The issue is that we are being fed lies and disinformation in a psyops war against America. When we have our second segment this morning, we're going to talk about the second war that is being perpetrated on America, and that was the promise that John Kerry, if you're joining us late, you need to hear this. John Kerry has announced yesterday that he is going to sign the Small Arms Treaty, I believe, today. Now, there's been lots of senators that said, don't do it. And I got to tell you, folks, if John Kerry signs the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment Small Arms Treaty, which will eviscerate the Second Amendment in the United States of America, it will be a proven act of treason. Yes, treason. Because he will have violated his oath to the United States of America to uphold the Constitution, which clearly says, shall not be infringed. That's the only part you need to know. Shall not be infringed. You're going to need to call your senators the minute that this, actually before he even signs it, and get a commitment out of them that they will not support this. Because if they attempt to ratify this, or if they successfully ratify it, you got to recognize it for what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It will be an open declaration of war against America. It will show, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the people in America have been declared as enemies of the state. And we must act accordingly. It will be an open declaration of war against every firearms owner and every non-firearm owner, because that Second Amendment right bears fruit for you as well. Even if you don't avail yourself and exercise the Second Amendment, you have a right. And I'm telling you right now, at some point in time, you're going to recognize the value of what that right was. If you allow them to restrict those of us who already exercise it or who seek to exercise it, you will be a part of the problem. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about the costs of health care, because there are 4 plans. There is a bronze, a silver, a gold, and a platinum plan. These are the plans that are going to be instituted by these exchanges and private insurance companies to meet the criteria for Obamacare. The numbers out are staggering. There's an article out on Drudge I read yesterday about a family who received a bill for their insurance, and it was from their existing health insurance. And they went from a $333 a month payment to $995. They've got to now come up with another $600 plus, $650 a month extra in order just to meet Obamacare requirements. And they don't even want the extra stuff that's thrown into Obamacare. You know, I posted a picture up on our Facebook page this morning that was very, very appropriate. There's a little old lady it shows an image of a little old lady who's shaking hands with Obama. And somebody added in the caption, no, it doesn't cover hip replacements, but you are eligible for birth control. And this lady's like 80 years old. And that is the truth. I mean, you're going to pay for a bunch of stuff you don't want, don't need, don't care about. We're also going to pay for abortion, even though we don't believe in it. So what's wrong with that? Well, there's a lot wrong with that. First of all, it completely destroys the concept of free will. It completely destroys the idea of competition. It completely destroys the free enterprise and free market. And what it does do, even more importantly, is give the federal government absolute dictatorial control over you, 1/5 of our economy, and, more importantly, it fills the dossier they've been building on you all along. When you sign up for Obamacare, you'll go through the data hub. The data hub is insecure. They still don't have it online, and they're stating that they will only test its security parameters one day before it goes online on October 1st. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands of companies, consultants, and individuals will have access to your personal health information, your financial information, everything they need in order to commit fraud, identity theft, betrayal. Not to mention the fact that all of your personal information will get neatly slipped into the folder for you that the NSA has been building on you with your emails and your phone calls and all of your communications, all of your internet searches. So imagine that. Now you don't just have the NSA storing information about your phone calls and your emails and your internet workings. They also have all of your financial data, and they're going to have all of your healthcare data. How much more information do you need in order to build a military-style dossier on everything about that individual? And when that kind of power is in the hands of individuals who we have no control over, your life is in danger. Mark my words, there is no reason, there's not one legitimate, valuable thing that will come out of that dossier that will benefit you. It will benefit your overseers, it'll benefit your master, but it will not benefit you. Now, there are a number of states that are listed here in this chart, and it's on Bloomberg.com. They got a hold of the report that was released by the Department of Health and Human Services, and it shows the massive variations in state premium prices for the most basic coverages under the new health insurance marketplace. This, and according to this report, states with the lowest premiums have more insurance companies that are offering plans than states with the higher premiums. In other words, there's no competition in some of those states like Wyoming and Alaska. And the table that they've put up on their website, and I'll put a link to this at the bottom of this video, and I'll also put it up on our website. It shows averages for the lowest cost silver and bronze plans that will be available in each state before tax credits. So, and then there's two other plans above that. There's a gold and a platinum, but we're only going to deal with the silver and the bronze for the moment. There are 3 states that are missing, which are Massachusetts, Hawaii, and Kentucky, because they haven't released their premium information. And if I'm not mistaken, Massachusetts already has the kind of a universal health care program. So anyway, let's talk about Wyoming and Alaska. Those are the 2 states that are showing the highest. They have virtually no competition. And Wyoming, the lowest cost bronze plan will be $425 per person per month. That's stunning. The silver plan, which gives you a little bit more, but not much more, is going to be $489 per person per month. Now, I watch, and I can see what states people register in when they are watching our show streaming live on the web. And so I'm going to call out a couple of states that I see routinely connect in. Connecticut, it's going to be $340 for a bronze plan, $397 for a silver plan. In Maine, $328 for a bronze plan, $388 for a silver plan. Indiana, a silver plan is going to cost you $392 a month. In New Jersey, a bronze plan is going to cost you $332. Silver is higher. So you have to realize what we're looking at here, right? In California, it's going to cost you $278 for a bronze plan, and it's going to cost you $341 for a silver plan. In Washington State, now we're talking about, a silver plan is going to cost you $350 a month. North Dakota's $281 for a bronze, $350 for a silver. Now in Missouri, my home state, we're talking about $245 for a bronze plan and $318 for a silver plan, which means that, as an example, my family, if assuming for argument's sake that I were willing to sign up for this, which I'm not, by the way, I'm opting out, and you should too. We can bankrupt Obamacare without the Senate and the House by simply refusing to sign up, people. In Missouri, in order to get a silver plan, which, that's the kind of plan that you get when you work at McDonald's or you work over at, Pizza Hut or you work at some kind of a small business, that's going to cost you $318 a month per person. So suddenly, you've now got to come up with another $1,600 or $636, or you're going to have to come up with about $7,000 a year. That's a stunning hit on people. Now, this email that I received from one of our listeners, this is an interesting argument. I'm going to read it to you. A part of Obamacare is that if you are at or below 133% of the poverty line, you do not get a subsidy for health insurance. Instead, they dump you straight onto the Medicaid rolls. Right? And we've all heard that. In other words, if you're below 133% of the poverty line, you don't get a subsidy to help cover those costs. You simply get dumped onto Medicaid. Now, Medicaid is different than Medicare. Medicare is the senior health program that is for when you're on Social Security and you're over 65 or 67 or whatever they've changed it to. Medicaid is for the poor and the disadvantaged. And so they're going to dump you straight into the Medicaid rolls. That's what the federal government's been doing, going out to these states and trying to pump them to adopt the Medicaid roll, Medicaid costs, with a 3-year commitment that they would pay 100%. But they've never said what they're going to do after those 3 years. And I guarantee you that budget crunches and all kinds of other nonsense will get in the way of them funding it beyond that, which means your state is going to get stuck carrying the weight for everybody on the Medicaid rolls. Here's the real rub. If you take a family of 5, a husband, wife, and 3 kids, and they work at a relatively low-paying job, let's say he makes $25,000 a year because he works at an auto parts store, and she makes about $12,000 or $14,000 as a part-time nursing assistant at a local nursing home. Now, so they've got, let's say, $36,000 a year in income combined. Now, they're not so bad off because he inherited a house and a house with 50 acres from his parents. The poverty line officially for a family of 5 is $27,570. If you multiply that times 1.33%, you get $36,668. So if a family earns $36,000 per year, they meet the Medicaid criteria. They simply have no choice. If they want insurance, they have to be dumped onto the Medicaid rolls. Or they have to pay cash for everything or essentially be uninsured. Now, here's where the rub comes in. If you are ever on Medicaid, when you sell any real property, the state will step in and grab all or part of that sales proceeds to reimburse them for services rendered. You can bet, by the way, that the interest that they'll tack on will be high enough to essentially enable the state to take most, if not all, of the money from the proceeds of that sale. So if you own any property when you die, the same thing happens. The state won't throw your spouse out into the street, but they will be there to collect when she dies. So basically, what you can say is, any real property that you own will never have an opportunity to be inherited or handed off to your own children. It'll be gone. Gone to the state to pay back the Medicaid subsidy that you received. Now, Medicaid rules state that you can't have more than a certain amount of money in all your accounts, and that you're not allowed to save beyond that point. So, what does that mean if you've got an IRA? What does that mean if you've got a health savings account that you get from your employer? What does that mean if you've got just a plain Jane savings account? There will be no financial inheritance for your heirs if this is the case. So if you have a few grand in a mutual fund or an IRA, it'll be gone, stolen from you. You'll have to spend that money entirely before you can even get health care, or you're going to have to pay cash. They haven't addressed that. That's not addressed, to my knowledge, by anyone anywhere. So how are they going to handle this? If Obamacare stands, it will facilitate what will amount to the largest transfer of wealth from the poor and the working class poor to the state governments that have ever been seen in this nation. There are millions of people that never intended to get on Medicaid because they have a job. In other words, this is the example given here is a couple who's making about $36,000 a year. They're not on Medicaid now. They don't qualify. They don't even want to be on it. But they will find themselves at the mercy of the looters in government who will essentially step in and seize control of all of their property in order to reimburse Medicaid for the services that they've received. Now, the real question is this the case? I'm asking flat out for anyone who knows the answer to get me some information. Send it to me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. Because if this is the case, let me tell you, then that even changes even my opinion about the real purpose of Obamacare, which I believe is about control. I don't think it has anything to do with health care. They don't give a rat's rear end whether you live or die. The truth of the matter is, what they're really interested in is getting a hold of your information. This is a national registration database. But if in addition to that, it also serves the purpose of being able to steal the wealth of the poor and mostly poor, then that is a crime that is beyond imagination. I got to tell you, folks, we are in big, big trouble. We are in a position now where government's sole function at this stage in the game is essentially to figure out how to have absolute 100% dictatorial control over you. That's all they're in this for. They have no interest in doing anything other than lining up the ducks so that as this thing collapses, as the federal system, the federal government starts to collapse, they can take control and ownership of you. These are your slave masters building the fences, locking the gates behind you, so you will no longer be allowed to escape. Mark my words, that's the real motive here. This Obamacare thing has nothing to do with whether or not, first of all, as far as they're concerned, the elderly are dispensable. They're disposable because they're not productive. They have no problem seizing their wealth and just letting them pass off. The unhealthy, well, they're not a productive member who can provide anything to the system. So, frankly, you're expendable as well. The ones that they want and who are going to carry the weight are the young who don't buy insurance because, frankly, they're young and they think they're bulletproof and they don't need it. And their premiums are going to skyrocket because they're going to be required to carry the weight of everyone else who can't really afford it or doesn't want it or is elderly and has medical needs that the youth don't have. This is nothing more than a redistribution of wealth in the United States of America. And I got to tell you something. The number one point of Obamacare is that it falls directly in line with the Marxist and totalitarianism planks that say, and this is a fascist plank, and it's a Marxist plank, and it's a plank of the Communist Party. In order to totally control a nation, you must have control of the healthcare system. Because through that healthcare system, you can implement 100% dictatorial control over such a massive portion of the economy and over the portion of the people that you have 25% of the nation completely locked down under your control. There you go, folks. This isn't about health care. This isn't about saving that just one child. Do it for the children. Has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with them gaining information to be used against you, with them drawing wealth off of us, the American people. The way you have to look at all of these projects that are going on right now, and it's not just Obamacare, it's all the new taxes, it's state taxes, everything's going up. Inflation is on the rise. But the key factors around inflation are being withdrawn from the equation so that you're fooled into thinking there isn't any. But anybody who's gone to the store recently or bought gasoline, you know inflation is here. Oh, but that's right. They take fuel costs and energy costs, and they take food cost out of the inflation equation. Well, what kind of a scam is that? If you take energy cost and you take the cost of food out of the equation, the two areas that are the highest level of expense for the average American family, then how do you say there is no inflation? You've just withdrawn from the equation the two biggest numbers. That's how they're hiding it from you. The truth is, this is like a sponge being dropped into a bowl of water, and suddenly you see the level of water go down in the bowl. And it's all drawn up into the sponge. And that sponge is siphoning off the wealth of America. It is being spent by government on fruitless and useless stuff like all of these crazy projects and, studies and it's being given away in grants. Not to mention it's being given away in foreign aid to countries that hate our guts. Meanwhile, it's being redistributed to the cronies and the pals of this administration. And by the way, this one's not the only one guilty. Bush did it too. Clinton did it before him. Bush Sr. before him. There's traitors all down the line. We haven't had a president in the United States of America since probably 1900 that was not a traitor. I know people are going to send me a ton of email about, well, Reagan wasn't. Well, let me tell you something. Reagan may not have been a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, as every other president has since Roosevelt, but every member of his cabinet was. The truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, the people who are pulling the president's strings, and every president since basically 1900, their entire focus, their sole goal, is their control and your demise. That's the entire thing in a nutshell. And when you look at it from that perspective, when you step back from it and you understand that everything that is done as a focused action to gain your control or gain control over you, it all becomes abundantly, painfully, blatantly clear. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You can find us by going to our website at americasvoicenow.org. You can also find us by going to our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And then lastly, you can find this and every other program that we do on YouTube. You can simply go to youtube.com/America's Voice Now. When we return, we're going to spend the second half of our program on the new announcement that came out this morning that John Kerry is going to sign the Small Arms Treaty by the United Nations that will eviscerate the Second Amendment in the United States of America. And ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, if he signs it, it's treason on his part. If the Senate ratifies it, we're at war. Did you hear what I said? War. We'll be back.